There we go. Oh my gosh, this is good.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Think Outside Fishing Podcast presented by Baits.com. My name's Joey Bissing, and this week I'm joined with my co-host Charlie Peterson. Charlie, thanks for jumping out with me. And, we've got another really special guest this week. I say this time after time, but it's really true. At GSM, we work with some of the best guys in the industry and especially in the fishing world. Today, we're bringing on the River King himself, Pat Schlapper. Man, thank you or Schlapper. I'm sorry, I messed it up again.
Oh my God.
Hey, you gave me 3 times. That was my 3rd time. I'm good from here on out.
That fruit was still wrong, but yep.
How's it going, Pat?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate you taking the time, out of your busy schedule, especially after this, awesome, incredible Mississippi River win that you just had this past week. We're super, super happy to be partnered with you, and couldn't be happier for you. Having 2 Elite Series wins this year is incredible season for yourself.
Yeah, the second half of the year has been pretty dang good. The first part was a little rough, but 2 wins in the last 4 events is nothing to sneeze at. So I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of introduced you as the River King. I actually went fishing with Robert G last night, and that's how he introduced you, was the River King. That's who Pat is. Do you kind of want to talk about why you're so good on the river? And then I really want to dive into, who is Pat? Where did he come from? Working at Scheels, and that kind of American story I think is really, really cool, and people are going to value that and resonate with it.
I actually grew up on a small river in northern Wisconsin, and I grew up trout fishing. So I kind of learned a lot about fishing current, pretty young. I didn't really know that I was learning about it when I was a kid, but once I started fishing the Mississippi about 20 years ago, a lot of what I learned trout fishing and just fishing the small river I grew up on, a lot of that stuff translated into the river. So, I love fishing the Mississippi. And obviously the Sabine was a river system too, but I feel like I'm equally as, I'm still know what I'm doing on Clearwater lakes with smallmouth and fishing, fishing offshore. I'm really comfortable doing that too. Just a lot of my signature wins have come on the river system, dating back to the nation championship on Pickwick in 2020. I was fishing super heavy current in the river, and then the 2, the Sabine and the Mississippi. So I think I just maybe have a little better understanding of current and what it does to fish and changing conditions than maybe a few of the people I'm fishing against now.
Yeah, definitely.
So does your confidence change, when you're fishing a lake or a river, or you don't really notice it?
No, it's all about, what I'm familiar with. And like, I've come really close to winning, live scope events and sight fishing events on the Elite Series. I almost won Toledo Bend last year, Seminole the year before that, and then Santee Cooper, I was straight sight fishing, got a top 10. Like the wins outshine a lot of the other good finishes. Yeah. So like people just see like, oh, he's won the last 2 river events. That's all he knows how to do. But if you look deeper, like I'm pretty versatile in a lot of other things, and I've had a lot of really good success on other types of deals. But I am confident when we go to river systems, just because I know how to break stuff down. Like I said, maybe especially in Mississippi, like I know what happens there more so than probably anybody else on the Elite Series, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, that definitely showed. So, Pat, I kind of want to dive into who you are, where you came from. I know you worked at Scheels for a long period of your life, and I kind of want you to tell that story. In my mind, it's a true American story. You fishing the nations, the Bass Nations, and then making the EQs, qualifying for the Elite Series. That's the true path that everyone can resonate because everyone can do it like yourself. And I think that's super, super cool. Do you kind of want to talk through that evolution of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I started tournament fishing when I was probably in 7th grade and liked it, always thought I'd be cool to do it. And went to college in Eau Claire, UW Eau Claire. So I moved down here in, I think, 2004 and got a part-time job at Scheels because I knew a couple people there. I was an avid shopper, my favorite store in the world. So anytime I went to Eau Claire, I would go there and shop. And I met some really, really cool people that kind of got me into working there. And I worked there part-time through college when, I graduated in 2006. And I have a teaching degree, elementary education, certified 1st through 8th. And when I graduated in 2006, that was when teaching was a really, really desirable job to have in Wisconsin. Like, it was really difficult to get a job. And I substitute taught for about a year and a half, dipped several different districts and put in, resumes to a bunch of different jobs. And it was just so hard to get in to a school district at that time. Now I could probably walk in anywhere and get hired on the spot because the teaching industry is just, anyhow, they offered me a full-time job at Scheels roughly, late 2006 or something to run the fishing shop, order product, merchandise, do all the typical stuff, which I love to do because I did that part-time a lot. One of the guys who hired me, his name's Todd Anderson. He's now the president of Scheels. He saw the passion I had for bass fishing, and he let me bring in new brands, and he let me merchandise stuff myself. And like, I learned a lot about that side of the business part time. So going full time was really fun, and they let me fish a lot. So
Exactly.
I had
That's
that,
what matters.
I worked full time for till 2020 when I basically, quit to go fish the opens is what I was doing. I fished the opens, and then I won the nation championship that same year. So I qualified through both the opens and through the nation that first year I tried to do it. So Scheels has been a big part of that. I mean, they not only did I have a great career, which allowed me to, stockpile a pretty good amount of cash, and they have an unbelievable retirement. And I just learned so much about the business.
Mhm.
I know way more than most, pros know about the actual business of it. I understand margins, I understand markdowns, I understand seasonal changes, I understand trends. I can look at an 8-foot wall and tell you exactly how many bags of plastic they're going to fit there and what the spacing is. I understand. So, that gave me a huge advantage when I, so my background is heavily in the tackle industry and
Yeah.
sales. Like, I still tell people, like, number one, I'm a worm salesman. Like, that's what I am. I'm a worm salesman that's lucky enough to get to fish on the Elite Series. And
That's so
Scheels has allowed me to have that opportunity. I mean, I still work. They're my title sponsor. They're my number one priority above
Yep.
any other, partner I have, because they support me so much. And they have molded me into the person that I am as far as
Yeah.
integrity and just doing things the right way. Their business model is something that anybody who wants to be successful can follow, and their core principles and values, and you're probably going to be successful. So
Yeah.
Scheels is a huge part of my life and why I'm where I'm at and why I've been successful.
So what
They
was your
definitely
kind of, sorry,
they
Trey, you
definitely
got it.
have. I was just gonna say, they definitely got something special going on with, just how they treat their employees and train them, and that obviously shows. And so, like, I just wanted to ask you, so you're fishing tournaments this whole time, working at Scheels between 2006 and 2020, and that's around the Eau Claire area or just all around Wisconsin.
I mean, I was fishing. I fished a lot of stuff around Wisconsin, Minnesota, but then I traveled a lot too. I mean, that was the cool thing with Scheels. I could say, well, there's an event down in Texas. I mean, one year, I was in Texas for 28 days between Falcon Lake and Lake Amistad because I fished a big tournament on Falcon, and then we actually filmed a commercial for Scheels on Amistad. So I was like just down there for almost a month fishing. working for them. But like, that was the cool thing with them. Like, if you were a good employee and you showed up on time and you worked hard, like, they will let you do what you want to do for, what you're passionate about. That's why you see so many long-term employees that stay there. You know what I mean? It's retail. Like, everybody's like, you work retail, but Scheels is different. I mean, we make very good money. The retirement is insane, which I can't get into too much, but it's insane. If you work hard, they take care of you on the back end for sure. And they understand the passion that the employees have, whether it's bow hunting, it's bird hunting, it's any type of fishing, it's running marathons, it's biking, golfing. Like, they want you to go do that stuff because that's what makes us true experts. If you
Right.
go into a Scheels and you go into a shop, 99% of the time, you're going to be talking to someone that's just as passionate or more passionate about what you're doing than what you are. There might be some exceptions if it's a new employee and they're not quite familiar with everything. Everybody kind of finds their niche that they fit in, and you gain, a lot of clientele because they know that they see me out there fishing these tournaments, whether it's close or now it's on TV or whatever. So they know that I'm legit. I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to steer them wrong. And we're
Exactly.
trained as Scheels employees that if you don't know the answer to something, if you're not sure about how to rig up a Nico rig, you go find the guy that knows how to do it. You don't, talk your way through it and give the customer bad information. So, like, that's just how Scheels is. That's the culture that they have. Yeah, it's just a unique retail environment.
No, it's seriously so awesome to see that because I actually got to experience that firsthand this year. This winter I went down to, gosh, what lake was that? I was just talking about it before this.
Lanier.
Yeah, Lake Lanier, and there was a Scheels event. And going off that expertise that you were just talking about, we actually sat there. I did at GSM. I sat there and talked to different rounds of employees at Scheels about bonehead tackle, big bite baits, all that stuff. Making sure that all those guys know exactly what they're going to talk about that are on their shelves at their stores. And I think that's super cool. Not everyone does that, but that just goes right along with what you were saying with, that they really value in their employees and that they really want them to be the most experts in their field when they're talking, to the customers that they're trying to buy products. And I think that's super, super cool. And, really giving back, right, that Scheels does.
Yeah, we have two universities, they call them, like what you went to in Lanier. That's the
Exactly.
Southern University, where it
Yep.
concentrates mainly on bass fishing and techniques and electronics, all that stuff. Then we have a Northern one, which has been around for a lot longer. That's in Chamberlain, South Dakota, where that's big, the bigger of the two. But that is a little more multi-species, a lot of walleye, because a lot of our market's walleye, muskie, panfish. We're fairly new in the bass market with a lot of the stores that are getting built further south. So that's why that Southern one has probably been around maybe 5 years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a big investment by Scheels to bring all them employees down there and all the vendors, but that's how you learn, is talking to someone like you or getting in the boat with someone like me or whoever it is. That's a major value for the company and those employees that go to those outings, because they see firsthand what a bait does on the water. They see firsthand, what a trolling motor does, how different rod brands feel that they might not be familiar with. So it's huge. Like, there isn't any other retails out there investing in their employees like that.
Exactly. Then they can talk about it. So, Pat, kind of going back to your track to the Elite Series, what was the turning point when you're like, all right, I'm going to go fish the Bass Nation Championship? I'm going to go try to qualify for the Elites. What was that point in your life where like, all right, this is what I want to do? Or was it just did it just happen?
No, I mean, for me, it's like, I always wanted to do it, and I always said I want to do it by the time I was 30. Well, when I was 30 years old was the first point in my life where I had really felt like I achieved financial freedom. Not that I was rich, but I didn't worry about paying my bills. I didn't worry about if I wanted to go on a trip and do something, if I wanted to go buy a new rod and reel. I didn't have to stress about it and save up for it. So I got to that point, and I was like, well, I kind of like that feeling, So do I really want to go risk, a long career, a good paying job to go try to do it. It just didn't make sense at that point. So I'd kind of like not given up on the dream, but like, I don't know, I kind of want to ride out the Scheels thing because, if I stick with it till I'm, 50 at the latest, like I'll have more money than I could ever spend in my life. So that kept me going. And then I got to be about I was 37 and I was like, oh, dang it. Like I see all these other people from around me that I fished against, and beat them a lot of the time, being really successful.
Yeah.
I don't really have any financial worries. I don't have kids. I mean, my wife's supportive. Like we've made a lot of really smart decisions where I didn't have a financial risk. Worst case scenario, like Scheels, if I went and tried it, like I could probably get hired back or I could go get another job because I work hard. I have good work ethic. I'm not worried about that. Like I'm going to take a chance. And like I said, my focus in 2020 was the Bassmaster Opens.
Yep.
And I was doing really, really well in them. I was in the top 5, 6 in points all year. And then that nation championship rolled around, which is a more difficult route to make it. And I just was so focused that year that I went into Pickwick pretty prepared and had a lot of things go my way. And it set up really well for me with the conditions that I won that and kind of could bypass the Opens because that got me right to the elites and to the Classic. But I stayed in the Opens competition because I wanted to double qualify, which I did. I finished third in points and qualified that way too. That's how Scott Martin actually got into the Elite Series, is because I double qualified. So
Wow.
that was my year. That was the best I have ever fished in my life for that year. I mean, I won so many local tournaments, did good in the Opens, won the nation championship. Like I just was on a different level. So that was, I was 37 years old when I decided to do it. That's old in bass years.
Exactly
You know what I mean?
was thinking.
That's
Yeah.
like, now if you're not 20 years old, that's like the new norm is, 20 to 25 years old is what most
Exactly.
rookies are.
Yeah,
So,
like either right out of college or they don't even go to college, right? And they're just bass fishing.
But I like that because it shows people that like you don't have to be a kid with, either tons of money from your family or you just are that good. You don't have to be that. Like you can go get a job and work for a few years and save up money and do a lot of smart adult things and then keep practicing and fishing events. And, no matter how old you are, you might think a lot, but every year you fish, you learn a lot more and become like, if I would have done it when I was 30, I wouldn't, there was a lot smaller chance I would have been successful because I learned so much more. And that's partially because of working at Scheels. I was always on the front end of stuff. Like I knew about a lot of things before a lot of people did. So I was always kind of, you can do that. Just show that old and get good established, take away some of the financial stress and risk and then go for it. As long as you're calculated and that's what you're going to want to do. I would suggest not having a whole bunch of kids and doing all that stuff, spending, buying a big house where you're in debt. And like, that's the route I took. And that it's been working out for me pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. It was very calculated, right? And it made sense. So you did it. And that's, in my mind, the true American story, like I kind of started off the podcast with, and that you've totally fulfilled that. And then, kind of translating into 2 Elite Series wins in this single year is incredible, right? And I know you said back in that 2020, kind of early 2020s, that was the best you ever fished. But how about now? Do you feel that same way, after winning at the Sabine and then winning at the Mississippi River? I mean, I guess you took one event off, didn't win that with that one, and then won again on the Mississippi River. That's crazy.
I think I saw today that
I
there's
definitely feel a lot more confident and I feel like I belong now. Like I know I can win. And like I said, I've been really close in the past, but until you like get that win and like, that's where I at least first felt like, okay, I can do this, and then when I won the river, which I've been working really hard for a long. I live close to it. Like I've put a lot of work in there. Like when I won that, now I'm just like, okay, the pressure's kind of off. Like I I feel a lot more comfortable. I think I'll get a different level of respect from anglers, hopefully sponsors. That hasn't really happened yet, but it's kind of early.
Yeah.
I think that should take me to that next level. And I feel like I don't feel like I need to go out and prove anything anymore, because I think even with one win, people are like, well, he maybe got lucky. But then to win 2 in the same year, like, I think I'll probably get a little different level of, people will look at me differently. I know I look at
Correct,
people,
right?
anybody I fish against who has won or consistently wins, you look at them different. I mean, I respect everybody, pretty much everybody I fish with on the Elite Series. But those guys, like your Poliniks, and your John, Chris and Corey, and, those guys who are, Shakuret, that are just in contention to win every tournament and have
Right.
won tournaments, you just look at them differently, and you just feel different when you're around them. So I think that I may have achieved that status now amongst a lot of the people we fish against.
Yeah, definitely that respect aspect, right? Winning 2 at the back half of the season, really proving who you are. Pat, I kind of want you to dive into, the actual, not that we're going to disregard the Sabine River. That was a phenomenal tournament. We loved watching that grinder, kind of right up your alley in my mind. But the Mississippi River was super relevant. Just happened this past week. It's fresh in our minds. You kind of want to talk through that tournament, kind of what you were thinking. You said you live very close there. You put in a lot of time. What did that mean to you? And I guess how much time did you really put into it, to get that outcome?
I mean, I've fished down there. I fished Mississippi for probably close to 20 years now. A lot more of my time has been on the upper pools, like pool 4, 5, and 5A are probably what I fish the most, but a good amount in La Crosse. My best friend lives down there, so he fishes there a ton. So we fished tournaments down there and just fished a lot of days down there. And after the last time we were there, I think in 2022, where I didn't do that well, I started really putting in a lot of time and really paying attention to details and like what I actually need to see. What happens when conditions change, temperature drop, river comes up, river goes down, falling water, rising water, water clarities. I started really paying close attention to that. And then this year I went down there and pre-practiced, before cutoff, I don't, whatever, a month and a half ago. And I took really super detailed notes about water levels from the top of pool 7 all the way to pool 9, all the different water levels, and notes on the fishing and areas I thought I could get into if the water dropped, areas I couldn't get into, what the vegetation looked like. Like, I took actual written notes, which ended up being a big deal, because the water levels actually matched up pretty close when we were there for the actual event.
Gotcha.
And then, like I said, just really paying attention to when I caught fish down there, and this is dating back to 3-4 years ago, when I caught fish, what were the conditions, what was going on in that area, So I put a ton of time in and paid attention. I didn't just go fish and catch them and then be like, that was fun. Like, I really paid attention to what I was doing. And that paid off this week, because I was confident enough to spend a lot of, especially that area I caught him on that jerk minnow. Like, I spent, we had 3 days of practice, and I spent probably close to a third of my time, maybe a little less than that, looking for that needle in the haystack out in those eelgrass flats, because I knew it was there and I knew it was hard to find, but I knew if I found it, it could carry me through the tournament. And I found that area, and that carried me the first 2 days. Like, a lot of my weight came from that area the first 2 days, until the temperature dropped and it blew 40 mile an hour and I couldn't really fish out there, but it got me through the first 2 days. So without having that confidence of what to look for, that'd be hard to go spend 8-9 hours looking for that. But I did it. I lost hope for a little while, but then I found it, and I was jumping up and down on the boat, high-fiving myself, because I knew what I had found.
Yeah.
So, that takes experience down there to know that, and to be confident you're gonna find it.
Yeah, definitely, especially belief in yourself, right? That it's going to be there. You got to grind, but you will find it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
after that, did you, have other spots that you were planning to go to, or did you fish those spots, days 1 and 2 also? Or did you kind of have spots that you left alone waiting for, to set up perfectly?
I had basically up on pool 7, I had 3 schools of fish found. And I started on a different one, which I really thought was going to play more than it did. I caught a really nice one like first cast, and then it something changed in there. I caught a couple keepers. There was a couple other people there too, but I don't think that affected it. Some changed and then I went out to that schooling area and caught. I mean, I'm sure you saw the footage the first day. I mean, it was insane. I was just catching them like every cast.
Yeah,
And had a
blister.
good bag there. And then I went to my second area and I caught 3 big ones on a frog. And then I kind of left and I actually locked back down to pool 8 because the water had come up about 2 feet from when we started practice. In the second day of practice, I tried to get into an area in pool 8 I couldn't get into. So partway through day 1 of the tournament, I committed about 2 hours to trying to get in there to see if it was happening. And I got in there, but the water was dirty and it just wasn't happening. But I got it out of my system.
Yeah, you weren't thinking
So
about it in the
the
back of your
main,
head.
yeah, and then the day 2, I
Yeah.
did the same thing. I went into an area on pool 7 because I thought it would be happening with the water coming up. But it didn't end up happening. But I basically had those 2 schools of fish on pool 7, and then I had a couple areas on pool 8 that were like, which ended up, that last day I caught a big one, and like each day, every day except for day 1, I weighed several key fish out of pool 8. I would only fish down there for about an hour and a half after I locked down, but I was able to like run right to a spot. And I think on day 2, I weighed 2 of my 5 from down there. Day 3, I weighed 3 of my 5. And then the last day, I weighed 2 of the 5, and that was just fishing for a very small amount of time. But I knew the schools up on pool 7 there was more fish and they were generally bigger. So I really only had, I mean, like I said, pool 7, they all came out of two groups of fish. And then pool 8, there was 2 groups of fish where I caught all of them out of. I didn't have, going into it, I was like, oh, dang, I didn't find enough. I thought I would have found a lot more with my knowledge, but it just didn't happen, which it ended up being. That's why I won the tournament, is it made me slow down, especially in that one area on pool 7. And
Yep.
just, I didn't get a lot of bites, but I caught the overall quality was a lot better. So
Exactly.
that ended up being, I believe, why I won the tournament.
Can you kind of talk through your setup on those first 2 days with that jerk minnow? Yeah, I know you were catching a bunch of fish. I was watching you on live, just smash them on that. Can you kind of talk through the setup and what you were fishing without giving up too much? I know you don't want to give up your juice you spent 20 plus years on from the Mississippi River, but what were you fishing and kind of how were you fishing it?
Just a big eelgrass flat, and I don't know why them fish were there. There wasn't anything visually I could see different. I just got fortunate when I was going through that area. I had a couple fish come up on a topwater, and then I threw a topwater in there with no hooks, and another one came up on. I'm like, okay, they're here. Well, then up ahead of it a little bit, they came up schooling, and that was how I found it. And
Wow.
that was it. Like I left it. I actually, I lie. I spent a ton of time trying to expand around it just to try to find, because it all looked the same. And I'm like, there'll be another spot. Well, I never found another spot like it. There was kind of 2 little areas in that area that had a group of fish on them. And it was, I don't know why. I did seem like I was seeing a little more shad around that area.
Okay.
But there was no distinguishing factor where I was like, this is why they're there. That's what's difficult about trying to find them in that stuff, is it all looks the same.
Exactly.
And
Right.
you just got to get lucky like I did and made a cast while I was going, I was on the trolling motor going fast. And I'm just like, oh, there's one. And then, oh, well, there's another one. There's obviously a there. And I didn't really know what I had found. I just knew I was going to stop there. And I knew they were big ones because I saw them, come up.
Yep.
And I was not on. It just with the conditions, it was slick, calm, and there was a ton of floating eelgrass and other weird spirally grass where you couldn't throw any other moving bait through there.
Yeah.
So like
Yep.
I think I tried fishing a little bit with what the other thing I was going to catch them on, and I'm just like, I can't do it. And I picked up the jerk minnow, jerk minnow, and there was one other fluke style bait I was throwing the first day, but like just started catching them like every cast. Because in them conditions, it was shallow. I wanted something to be up, but I wanted to be able to work it without it moving too far.
Mhm.
And I was just throwing it weightless on a 5/0 offset round bend hook, a heavy wire one, so it had more weight. And I like the offset round bend because I just don't like EWG hooks unless I absolutely have to throw them. The hookup rate's just a lot better. And then I was throwing it on, originally I was throwing it on 30-pound braid, was 7-foot medium heavy. And then I had a little mishap where I lost that rod, and I tied it on a 7.3 heavy extra fast with 50-pound braid, which worked way better because
Yeah.
it was so much work. You'd hook one and it'd get down that eelgrass, and you had to just winch on them to get them out.
Yep.
So,
Fight them out.
yeah, that was it. I mean, that's what I caught. I don't know how many I caught on it the first day. It was a lot. The second day, they were a little bit smarter, but I still caught like 14 pounds really quick on it.
Yeah.
And then and I only fished the spot one time each of the first 2 days because I need it for day. I can get a good start here, but I think I caught a couple more fish days 3 and 4 because it was so windy. I couldn't see where I needed to cast. It was just really difficult to even fish it. But the first 2 days, that was a big part of my day.
And just having like a spot like that to start on and get you off to a, quick, fast start, get 5 in the boat. I mean, that's just huge for the rest of your day and hitting all other spots. And like you said, I remember watching you try that, getting that, frogging area out of your system on day 1 and just
Yeah.
allowed you to,
Yeah,
you know,
that's part of that's how you win, especially, a lot of people like look at the weights and they're like, well, I could probably go do that. But it's a 4-day event. You know what I
tough.
mean? It's not the
Yeah.
local tournament. That's a 1-day event. You can just lean on everything you got. That's why generally you'll see bigger bags in those local tournaments is because they can just burn everything to the ground that they've got. But in a 4-day tournament, and I knew like when they asked me what I thought would win, I did an article for Bass before the tournament, and I said 16.5 pounds a day will most likely win. And people are like, that's too low. And I'm like, 16.5 pounds a day, it will probably win a 4-day tournament down here. And that's almost exactly what I averaged, 30,
Yeah.
what I have, 66 pounds, 9 ounces. So like
Right, Ed.
people don't get that, they don't understand the pressure and the changing conditions we had. It's set up perfect for me with the cold front, with how I knew to adjust. I knew a lot of other people, it would spin them out, but for me, it worked out perfect. But, a lot of the people, local people, which there's unbelievable local fishermen down there. I mean, they're some of the best around, but they might fish a 2-day tournament here and there, but 1-day tournament's a whole nother ball game than a 4-day tournament.
Yep.
Exactly. You can burn it all down, like you said. So talking about the changing conditions and, going into day 3 and 4, obviously you guys major cold front, heavy winds. What was your mindset going into day 3?
I was still hoping I could get a few fish out on that starting area, which I think I might have got one small one. And then later in the day, I think I got one decent one, but I just knew I would have to change because, I was either catching them on that jerk minnow or I was catching them on a frog.
Yep.
And when it was 30 plus mile an hour winds. It's just so hard to work a frog effectively, especially where I was at. And I think the third day I know for sure I got at least one good one on a frog. But I ended up scrambling, like I said, on pool. I think I left pool 7 with like 12 pounds. And I caught the biggest one up there on a frog. I think I caught one on a worm out on that schooling spot. And then I think I don't remember what I caught them all on up there, but then when I went down, I had found one pretty good sized group of fish on pool 8, but they weren't that big. And I went there on day 2 and I caught some of them. They were like 2.25 to 2.5 pounders, which didn't help me at the time.
Yeah.
But day 3, I'm like, because I had 2 fish that were like 1.75 pounds. And I was like, I need to go there. And if I get 2 of them, like I'll gain over 1 pound. And so I ran there and I caught 2 smallmouth that were 229. So I gained over 1 pound. And then I ran around the corner to this patch where I was getting them punching heavy grass, and I caught another one that was 3 pounds. So day 3 was like an adjustment day where I caught them on a chat, them smallmouth I caught on a chatterbait, or I think I caught one on a chatterbait, one on tube, and then I caught the one punching. I caught one on a frog that I weighed, and I caught one on a swim worm. So
Yeah, totally.
like
Just
5 different baits
right.
in like 3 different areas. So completely different than the first 2 days. But I knew that's what I had to do. I knew if I got 14, 15 pounds, I would stay in the mix to win the tournament, because day 4 was when I really figured I would get them better with the conditions, especially when I got up in the morning and it was like cold. Like not like wear my snowsuit cold, but like wear a hoodie, wear your
Yeah.
rain gear, I knew it was going to put them right where I wanted them. So I had to get through day 3. And then day 4, I was super confident. Like, I know how I'm going to get them. I know I'll probably get 5 or 6 good bites. I just need to get them in the boat. And I did. I got 5 good bites. I mean, by good bites, 3 to 4 pounders. Got every one of them in the boat and won the tournament. So
Exactly.
a lot of adjustments were made.
Totally.
One thing I remember from day 4, I think it was around noon or something, and you had 16 pounds. You had, on Bass Track you were leading, and you were gonna lock back to 8, I believe, and you were like, I think you talked to the lock master or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're like, I gotta go back. Like there's big ones living in there, and I'm trying to win this tournament. And like on the outside looking in, it's like,
That's
it
insane.
seems like a gutsy call, because like,
Yeah.
looks like you're gonna win, but obviously there's still time on the clock. Anything could happen, and you're like, I'm going for it. So I
Yeah,
just
that's just my familiarity with the locks and being comfortable looking at the app and trusting the lock master. I mean, those lock
yeah
guys were awesome this week. I mean, you'd get in the lock, they'd tell you what was coming, what was going, when they think you should be back by. And I pulled up and he's like, and he's not just telling me, they tell all, it's not like I'm getting some secret information.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, this one coming up's not going to take very long. Worst case scenario, it's going to take, about 45 minutes to an hour. Like worst case scenario, I'll get you through at 1:30. So I'm like, screw it, I'm going back up, because I had
Yeah.
just caught a really good one, and like I felt like I really had the key little areas dialed in. And so I went back up. I knew it was a risk, but I think I even said, I'm like, I want to win. Like, this is what I got to do. I'll regret it if I don't win this tournament. And I went down to pool 8 and just messed around, which ultimately pool 8 was what sealed the deal when I locked back through. But I felt really good about going back up into that area and getting one. I'm like, I need one more over 3 pounds and I'll have over 17. And I really felt like I would get it. I never did. I think I caught a couple little ones, but nothing that helped until I came back down.
Gotcha.
Can you kind of dive more into what you were actually doing on day 4? What was your process of waking up like, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. My history here has helped me. I've seen days like this. Why did you go do what you did?
Well, I mean, the wind was real bad, but it had shifted a little bit. And I'm like, I think I could get them out on that schooling area again. So I started out there and I caught one, like 2.25 pounder. And then I think I just wore out my welcome. Like I had caught most of what lived there.
Yeah.
And then I knew, I'm like, I'm going to go and just fish real slow in those mats. Like I'm going to, flip and punch and just fish slow and methodical and make accurate casts at the right angle. So my mechanics would be right. And if I got a bite, I would be in a position to get them out. I wasn't just casting around willy nilly. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
get the boat right, pitch in there, work it, pitch, just fish really thorough, like I know you need to do during those cold fronts, because like I said, it's set up perfect for me where it got cold, it was windy. A lot of those fish that were out cruising around on them flats just kind of sucked into the mats. And I knew they would be pretty lethargic, but I also knew how to catch them. And I knew I would get the bites because of the area I was in. The size was just very good.
Yeah.
I think
And that,
that's important when you're, fishing Mississippi like that, where there's everything looks so good. You can kind of just be fishing and get a bite unexpectedly. But when you know they're in there and you can you're setting up like you're gonna catch one and you need to put it in the boat. So
Yeah, and that's
like you
what I
said, that
did. Like
yeah,
I threw a frog a couple casts, but I'm like, it's going to be hard for them to come up and get it. The mats had gotten a lot thicker because of the wind. It blew in a lot more stuff. So even for a fish to get through that, I just don't like frogging when it gets real thick and cheesy like that. It's just hard to get them to come up through it. And I just knew if I got them, the rig that I was flipping with, it's just a really refined setup, from rod, reel, line, hook, everything. Like I have pretty supreme confidence that when I hook one with it, I'm going to get. I did lose one really key fish on day 3, like the biggest one I had hooked. But it was my fault, I believe. But other than that, like when I hook them on that, I generally I'll get them in the boat with the setup that I have.
yeah, definitely. So what did it mean? You're coming in, you locked back down to 8, right? And you said you caught one more key fish. Kind of talk through that, then talk through you getting into weigh-in, and you've got a little over 18 pounds and you're in position to win it.
Yeah. So basically when I left the lake and I shut down to go on the lock, and I told my camera guy, I'm like, if I got an hour when we get through, I'm running all the way to the bottom of pool 8 to go to that spot. Because like I said, each day I would get one key bite there. And I pull, and usually like for them to fill the lock and open it takes a little while. So I'm like, and it was like 150. So I'm like, I'm going to be pushing it because I'm running all the like 20 minutes from takeoff. You know what I mean? Well, I pulled up and the lock master was opening the door. I'm like,
No
holy
way.
cow, like this is meant to be. And I got in the lock and he's like, yeah, I saw on live that you were coming. So I just filled it up quick. And I'm like, oh my God, the stars are aligning here.
Oh my gosh, it gave me
Yeah,
the
it was
chill.
insane. I
Yeah,
fished down there for 20 years and these guys were so unbelievable. And, I'm going to stop down there and talk with them and thank them and, bring the trophy down there because they were super cool. But so I
that's
like
so
got through the
cool.
lock and it was like one fit, whatever it was. But I'm like, I half thought about going and fishing by takeoff there because I knew there was a lot of fish. But I'm like, no, I want to win. I know no one else has fished down there, and every day I've gotten a key bite down there, and I need 1 3-pounder. So I just got out of the lock and just pinned it and ran, 15 minutes, whatever it was. Like I was just focused, just running, get down there and shut down, get in there. And I'm like, all right, it was a little after 2 when I got in there. And so I
Yep.
figured I had about a half hour, 35 minutes if I pushed it. And I got in there and fished a little bit and got up to the key area. There was kind of one little corner and I flipped in there and I got a 319, which called out a 240. So
Wow.
I'm like, all right, I got over 17 pounds. Like, I've got all nice ones. My smallest one was like a 288. And then I had one a little over 4 and 2 that were like 360 and that 319. So I was like, I've got 17 pounds. So I was excited, and then I sat down, rigged up my stuff, slid up there again, made one more pitch and caught one almost 4.5. So like I swung that one in the boat, threw out the 288. And on my scale, I had like 18 3/4. So I don't know how it weighed,
Yep.
half a pound light. Like I was shocked when it only weighed 18.7, honestly, because I had, a 440, a 4.1 something, 2
Yeah.
360s and a 3. Like I was shocked, which it was enough. And I got big. I think I weighed the wrong one for big fish too, but either way I got it. But so at that point, like, I'm like, holy crap. Like I've got a big bag now for day 4 down here, these conditions, like
Big
Caleb and Schmidt, Schmidt was the one I was most worried about because I knew Caleb, how he fishes down there. I mean, I didn't 100% know, but I pretty much knew because we talked quite a bit, and I knew he was mostly fishing cut bank. And I'm like, 4-day tournament, day 4. And he told me how tough it was day 3. Like, I don't think he's got to catch 16 and a half pounds. And I'm like, Schmidt's got to catch 17. I'm like, you never know what happens, but I could kind of sense throughout the day that it was super tough.
Yeah.
And so I probably could have fished another 10 minutes, but I like tried to make a couple casts and I'm just like shaking up. I'm like, dude, I got him out. Like, I got him out of there. Like, I got to get back now. Like, I got to make sure I get back because I'm really familiar with running around that area, but you just never know. You know, if I hit something day 2 and bent my prop shaft, like I didn't want anything like that to happen. And if it did, I wanted to have time. So I left at I was seriously only there for 10 minutes.
Oh my
And
God.
left, got back to check in by check in and fished a little bit, by the bridge. Everybody was fishing, which I was so jacked up. I might as well have just went straight in. And then I just, idled in and had, I mean, I had, 3-4 extra minutes when I checked in, and I'm good friends with Justin Atkins, and he was waiting at the dock, and he got in the boat after I checked in and dropped the camera guy off to help me load the boat and get my truck and stuff. And I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, do you want me to tell you? And I'm like, well, yeah, I want you to tell me. I've been stressing about it all day. He's like, dude, it's over. He's like, it's beyond over. He's like, you just, yeah. He's like, you are going to win unless something crazy happened that they didn't show. Like, you're going to win by a lot. So then that was where I kind of was a little bit relieved, because he knows, even if he's watching and he sees somebody catch a big one and they say it's a 2-pounder, like, he'll know that. So when he told me that, I was like, all right, I think we got a good chance. And then Caleb idled by me and he's like, good job. You took it home. And I'm like, well, I don't know that. He goes, well, I only got 12 and a half pounds. So,
wow.
I think you got it. So that was when I was like, holy crap, I think I'm going to do this on my, I've been stressing about it so much all year. And to think like, oh my God, I think I got this done. So it was a pretty cool feeling for sure.
What did it mean to you, winning the trophy on stage and just bringing it straight to the crowd? Like, those videos were awesome to see on social media. Charlie and I were sending back and forth, and like, he's the people's champ here. It was so cool to see. What did that mean to you?
I mean, it meant a lot because, unless you were there, I don't think you could get the full understanding of how many people were there to support me and how loud it was when I got on the stage. I mean, you're back there and people cheer for whoever. And then he starts announcing me, Bob, Caleb, Shakur, but really me. Like, it was like insane how loud that place got. And it was outside, but it was insane how loud it was. And so, I brought it right out to my, everybody, in the center was, I don't know how many people with, my jerseys on, and just my friends, family. And I brought it right straight to my buddy Mike, who I fish with, Mike Wilmoth, like my best friend, who we fish down there so much. And we haven't been able to talk for a year because of, information, which I like, but it's just hard, because, we haven't been able to talk at all. And I brought it right out to him and handed him the trophy because it was like his trophy too, because of how much time we spent down there. That's awesome. It was super special to do that. There's only a couple other times I can remember people doing that. And I think it's going to be kind of iconic for me, for Scheels, and just for all the people that support me. I mean, I think it meant a lot to them to do that.
Yeah, definitely. We couldn't be happier for you, and we could not be happier that we work with you, Pat. An incredible season, and it's so cool to see you kind of bring it all home here on your kind of home pond, home river system. It was awesome to see, and we really, really appreciate you taking your time to come speak with us today. This was super cool podcast. I had the chills a couple times myself, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Awesome. Great.
And tell us, tell the listeners how to find you on social media and how to follow you moving forward rest of the season and next year.
Just Pat Schlapper Fishing on Instagram, Facebook. I have a YouTube thing, but I don't do anything with it. I'm not really a YouTuber, so but just Pat Schlapper Fishing. You'll see it on Facebook and Instagram, and then I'm also I'm going to have a page on Scheels website now where it'll feature products I use in tournaments, just stuff that I like.
Nice.
So that'll be kind of cool. I'll start putting that's kind of a new thing we're working on. So I'll start trying to put tip videos, product videos, stuff like that on there for fishing and for hunting and just for, I'm a tropical vacationer. So maybe, some clothes and stuff I like to wear on that. I'm really looking forward to that, to kind of connect more with, fans and just customers that want to learn more about, a certain technique or a certain bait. So you'll find me on the Scheels.com too. I don't know if it's up quite yet, but I think it's there's an experts tab, I believe, where there's a lot of employees with similar setups. But I'll have my own page on there. So it'll be really cool. I think we'll be able to do some neat stuff with that. And so, yeah, those are the 3 ways where you can kind of see what's going on with me.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Well,
I can see it already. Pat's got a big old sombrero, kind of bucket hat on vacation, and his
Tommy Bahama shirt hanging out.
Yep.
Oh, dude, I am a complete retiree when I go on vacation. I'm wearing button-up tropical shirts, and
That's what I'm talking
I don't
about.
care if my huge body is showing. We love it. We go at least once a year, and that's kind of the one week or 2 weeks of the year I kind of get to unwind and just have fun. And but yeah, I've been doing that for a long time. So there's
cool.
it's very enjoyable for me when I get to do that.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for your time, Pat. This is a super cool podcast, and thanks for everyone for sitting in on another episode of the Think Outside Fishing Podcast.
Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, this